Forgiving you was so hard, especially because of the mental abuse you imposed. And I soon realized that if I kept holding you hostage in my head, how could I ever find inner healing for my present and for my future? I made peace with my past, I made peace with my past. In order to grow, I made peace with my past. I made peace with my past, I made peace with my past. Don't harbor resentment, yeah, when life goes unplanned. I made peace with my past, I made peace with my past. In order to grow, I made peace with my past. I made peace with my past, I made peace with my past. In order to grow, I made peace with my past. Peace. Power in my hands, I wish that was the honest truth. Cover my head in shame, cause I thought I was born abused. Question why I confided in you just to hold some space. Either make peace with you or hold grudges like to my grave. Praying for survival, cause I just wish I wasn't here. Presume life would be better if I just wasn't here. Felt incompetent, felt like gum, yet so small. Got me thinking if I truly ever even belonged, I deserved better.
Alright guys, that is a snippet of my friend Rich Vysion, who is on this episode today. You can get his music anywhere. You can stream it, stream music, obviously. I pulled that up on Apple Music. And we're just going to get right into this interview, but I hope you guys enjoyed a snippet of that content. He's a very good guy, and I appreciate him, putting out any kind of content, let alone music, where he's talking about serious subjects, and mainly in particular mental health. So kudos to him, and let's get into the episode, shall we? Alright guys, here we are on a Sunday afternoon. Our next guest is someone I met not too long ago. We set something up in advance, and he and I had like a really nice conversation, got to know each other, and he actually kind of picked my brain a little bit, and it kind of spawned a bunch of thoughts and whatnot, and it was just, like I said, I enjoyed our talk, and but then we had to set up a date and let's get the podcast started and all that. And because, he interviewed me essentially, and I was like, well, I got to interview you now. So, like I said, he's a really nice guy. So I just wanted to have him on to tell his story, and hopefully he can help some people at the end of the day. All right, buddy, would you like to tell us your name, maybe a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the honor of sharing my story with your audience. My story, I am a mental health rapper, advocate. I go by the name of Rich Vysion, RICHVY, like yellow, SION. I am besides a mental health advocate, I am an author as well, a spoken word artist, and my mission really in life is to bridge the gap between music and mental health, because I've been struggling with mental health, especially during the pandemic, where I felt like my self-worth and my emotional health was challenged. And my mission is also to end the stigma of mental abuse and to allow my works to be a catalyst for change for other people who are seeking that healing and solace, and to remind other people of their self-worth as well.
Sure. So you use your music and your art to express your feelings towards mental health and everything you've been through.
Absolutely, yes.
That's awesome. So I know you said the pandemic, but was there a time before, 2020 when you knew you had mental health, or did it really start then?
Well, to be honest, it really started when I started first putting out my first couple of singles, where I really felt like my mental health was challenged because of the fact that I link my self-worth with my career, and didn't know at the time how to differentiate between me as a person and then me as an artist. Because when people would attack my music, I thought they were attacking me personally, and I ended up internalizing a lot of the things that they were saying that were negative about my music to the point where it caused me to want to commit suicide because I felt like I had something to offer the world, but I felt like it was being cast down. It wasn't being validated. So in turn, I ended turning to vices, like self harm, in order to alleviate, some of those um, that mental strain of not getting the validation of being an artist who's attempting to make a difference in this world.
Now, do you rap as if like it's you expressing these things, or are you doing it from like a persona? So some of it is fictional, because I mean, if you're rapping from necessarily your point of view, I can see how someone's criticism towards your music could really affect you because they're essentially criticizing you. But if you're rapping from a persona, then it's like, oh, okay, you're taking it personal when you don't need to, even though it is your music, though. I mean, it is your art. So anybody criticizing, I could see how it could, frustrate you.
Yes, no, that's actually a great question because I actually did have instances where I was going through a identity crisis. Um, Also during my career, which is the reason why I had to rebrand my whole entire rap name. A little bit about that is I started to listen to a lot of like this gangster rap music and things like that that I was heavily influenced by several years ago, and I started to take in some of their demeanor and lyricism and things, and I started to implement that in my psyche to the point where I didn't know who I was. Like for years, I was putting up this persona, like I was this like tough guy, bad, gangster, not bad, but more like this gangster rapper, braggadocious type of rapper, in order to really to feel wanting to feel validated, and I did that because I felt like if I was doing that, I felt like that would get attention, that would make me heard, and it didn't really come across that way because when I started getting criticism from two people in my school, they were telling me that like, hey, like, like this is not you, like you're being fake, and I didn't really sit with that too well because in my eyes I was being real. I was like, okay, no, this is who I am. Like, but then I sat down, I had like an epiphany, and I was like, how can I keep this up? Like, this is not who I am. Like, my core was always giving a message of hope, resilience, and remind people of their self worth. But I was morphing myself into someone I told myself I never will become, and um I had challenges where I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to keep up this, this fake persona for so long that will fulfill me, especially in my artistry, and come across that, every single time I'm out there in the public eye, like I have to be like, oh, this one person, and behind the scenes I'm a different person. Um, so long story short, I ended up having to really sit with a lot of those things, and I said no, let's do it differently. I said let me rebrand myself. I worked with a mentor of mine who was helping me with my music career. We ended up doing a fresh rebrand because the old rap name Rich So Fresh brought a lot of that braggadocious and demeanor to it, which I didn't want people to associate me with that type of music because a lot of my music is conscious rap music. It's about empowering other people,
Yeah.
and encouraging people that they're worthy to be alive and that they can overcome any adversities, no matter what they've been through, and also that they're overcomers. And that was really my main core message to really solidify across my brand. And when I did the rebrand with my mentor. She and I we worked in the name Rich Vision, and it just implemented, it solidified so much um of my value of like me wanting to enrich the lives of other people who have um who have been an influence to me, and also to be able to be that for other people through my music, through my poetry, and also through my latest book that I just released called From Victim to Victor: Transforming Trauma into Triumph. It was also a way for me to like branch out and cultivate this new identity that was always in me, but just like struggle, like it was like kept hidden, buried in me because I thought I had to be a certain way in order for me to get validated. But it was obviously a lie, because when I started to really speak about what I was actually going through, it was actually saving lives and holding space for people who said my music is making a difference and not to stop.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that because, when I started doing this podcast, there was a period of time where I was doing the same thing as you, not necessarily in music, but there was a period of times where especially in high school, I didn't want to stand out so bad. That anytime someone would say, man, I don't like that so and so album or whatever, and I would say, yeah, me too, even though it was on my iPod, right? And I would try to be like other people because I didn't want to be different. I didn't want to stand out. And like when I first started doing this podcast, I was told like, don't do that, because don't talk about disability and trauma and all that, because it's not sexy. It doesn't sell. You should talk about sports or talk about other things. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, because that's done 1,000 times over. And sometimes it's easier to just sell your soul and just say, I'm going to do whatever sells, and I'm going to go completely against who I am. And like being authentic is really hard, especially now in this day and age where authenticity really isn't celebrated. Genuineness
Right.
and just being real isn't celebrated.
Mhm.
People talk about being real and being a real one and all that crap, but most of these people aren't real at all. They're just selling a facade. They're selling an image that other people are selling. And
Yes.
it's great when you can turn it around and really see yourself and go, man, look what I'm doing. Because it's really hard to look at yourself and metaphorically strip yourself naked and go, man, I'm fucking up here. Like
Mhm.
I'm not. I mean, maybe you're not committing ultimate sins or ultimate crimes, but to yourself, you're lying, and you're
Mhm.
completely. It's one thing to fake out people, and it's another thing for people to catch on to it and go, "Oh man, you're not being real." It's another thing for when you see it, and
Mhm.
you can't hide it
Yes.
anymore. And now you have to, and the fact that you had to rebrand not only your music and your career, but you had to rebrand almost your whole identity,
Mhm. Yes.
which is powerful.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. Yes. That was literally life changing for me, because it really did cultivate a different mentality going forward of who I really am. It really helped me cultivate a mission statement for my career and what I want to leave behind as far as my music and my legacy. Because that's so important to me when it comes to my music career, is to be able to say like that my words and my music made a difference in someone's life, and that's been something that was always been at my core, even though I wanted to give up several times over. And it was something that did really, it kept me going, people's support and saying these things like, um, I'm so grateful, that you're speaking about this, as someone who's, an African American speaking about mental health, because they don't see people who are speaking about mental health like I am in my music. So, authentically and so boldly, with no filter in a sense, without having to, use the curse words and stuff, because I don't curse in my music,
Right.
but I do express my experiences, because I know that there's always someone that's able to relate to it in a certain level, even if it's not the same experience. They can take something out of my music, and they can pick up a message of hope that they will be okay, and that's why I keep continue to pursue this, because I know that there's someone here that needs to hear this and needs to be reminded that no, like what they said is a lie. Like, you are beautiful, you're worthy of being here, and you're worthy to overcome any adversities, regardless of who said otherwise, because you wouldn't be here today if you weren't here for a reason. So I just want people to just understand that their self worth is so important to solidify within themselves and to always seek it within themselves and not outside of themselves, because that's always gonna reach it's gonna reap more benefits when you find the validation from within. At least from my experience, I learned that.
Yeah. Well, and like I said to you earlier, like when I was young, I didn't want to stand out. But when you get older, standing out is a great thing. Being different, going against the grain, against the norm is awesome. It's powerful. It's harder to do to stand on your own 2 feet and say, I'm not going for that. Because even, you don't see it enough, especially in the Black community. You don't see enough people talking about mental health. But you can't live in the hood and not have mental health because of poverty and the violence. You have to have
Yeah.
mental health, even if you're not a part of the problem, even if you're not the one that is necessarily causing the violence and selling the drugs. But if you're just a random just grandma just trying to help her kid or grandchildren just stay alive, like that's mental health, man. You're hurting. And for people need to speak up and not always speak up like, oh man, this is my experience and people are dying and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. You need positive voices coming out because it's a harsh reality that a lot of people have a hard time swallowing. And I think it's easier for someone to swallow something that you're saying because it's like, look, I'm painting the picture that yes, it is hard, but it's also, I'm not just going to say, I'm not going to threaten you. I'm not, and again, I listen to rap music too. So I get it, but that you need somebody who will paint another picture and like some of the deep seated problems that is not just racism or not just gang violence and all the things.
Yeah.
You're painting a picture of just an individual who's just struggling with their own identity and trying to find who they are, not trying to follow other people's path and just trying to share a story of authenticity. And it's hard because, I know, especially in that community, a lot of times it's like you have to be one way or the other. And it's like, no, man, you need to be your own individual. That needs to be talked about more than just going, oh, yeah, I just want to talk about this one particular topic. It's like, no, because that kind of pigeonholes you into one category. And people all think, well, they're all just like that. And it's not true. And so for you to talk about, mental health is in every community. I know you're sharing it from the perspective of a African American, but like regardless, mental health is in every community. But I think it's very powerful for someone to go against the grain like you are and share that perspective because it's not something that is discussed enough, especially in that community, but in general. And I think
exactly, in general, yes.
Yeah, and so and doing it through music, because it's like I said, you could easily do the typical norm and whatever sells. But it's like, why? Like, yeah, of course you want to make money out of it. And of course you want to reach a bigger audience. Sure. But you also want to be able to sleep with yourself at night. And you want to be able to go, you know what? I did it my way. And if you just did it everyone else's way and you did what you were doing, well, then it's much harder to sleep with yourself. And it's much harder to accept you. And it's much harder to love yourself because you're like, this is not me. This is someone else's story. This is someone else's life, or this is a facade that I'm putting on. I need to just do it my way, regardless of what I get financially from it or whatever criticism and all that. Like at the end of the day, like at least you can like if someone just goes, oh man, that was a terrible lyric or what a terrible song. It's like end of the day, the first thing you have to deal with is obviously be able to love yourself and be able to accept yourself. And then if someone goes, hey man, your music sucks, it's like, man, I know what I'm putting into it and I know it's real. Maybe you can't accept it. Maybe it's something that you can't comprehend or, you can't really appreciate. But I know it's me, and I'm doing what's best for me and for people like me. And so that's something I've dealt with the older I get, being almost 36 now. I realize like criticism and things just kind of just wash right off my back. I just go, you know what? Like it doesn't bother me anymore because it's like I know I'm being me. And if someone's just says something about my eyes or says something about me, it's like, cool, you can say that, but like I just don't give a shit anymore. I'm good because I'm living the way I want to live. Maybe I'm not in the house that I'd like to be in right now. Maybe I'm not dating the girl I wanted, I've always dreamt to be with. but I'm getting closer to the things I want, and I'm getting closer to being the person I've always wanted to be inside, and I'm expressing that on the outside. So you can't phase that with negativity and hatred, and because there's a lot of people, and I'm sure when you were at a certain age and you were kind of going through your hateful stage, you saw people in the stages that you're in now where they feel better about themselves, they love
Yes.
themselves, and you're probably like, oh, come on, bullshit, you're not that. Or you started to hate, even if you didn't say it to them, you said it to yourself, or you wanted to be one of those keyboard warriors and say something behind. But you started to hate yourself, and now you're in that position of positivity and love for your own self-worth. And you might have a few people that'll come out and they were in your former position, and they're just like, you suck. And it's like, no, man, it's your perception that sucks, and you just need to grow, and you need to find a way to love yourself, because otherwise you don't know what it's like to be where I'm at right now. And it's not like that you're 100% happy, because as you and I talked about before and on here, we suffer from depression. We suffer from anxiety and PTSD. So we have bad days, but our good days are starting to outweigh our bad days, and we're starting to love life more.
Yes.
So, I think it's such a great way to, as you and I were talking about before, about like the steps and all that, and just the journey we've been on, and we can look back at like where we used to be. And even though we don't want to climb these steps anymore, it's like looking back and going, oh man, I'm just so happy I'm not where I used to be, way
Yes,
down there.
exactly.
And it's like, I'm not sitting here saying like every day I love who I am. I'm not saying every day is, blissful and rainbows and sunshine. It's not. Some days are very dark and frustrating and whatever, but I climb myself out every time I have to. When my back's against the wall, I find a way to fight off of it. And I know as you do. And so it's a progress. It's a process. It's a journey. You just keep going, and a lot of times it's just hanging in there is all you got to do, just hanging in there, and eventually time goes on, and they say time heals wounds, and you just find a way to look at yourself and love yourself. And if you're lucky enough, some people don't make it this long. So it's very powerful, and it's great, and especially when you're sharing it in music or any form of art. It's great because it's needed. There's certain parts, certain subject matters that are just not discussed enough, and some that are just beaten to death.
Yeah.
And kudos to you. But yeah, man. I mean, so were you always like, I don't know, what made you kind of want to be a rapper? Was it something you were, just something you always like were like in awe of as a kid?
No, I actually was. It's funny how now that I'm an author, I tend to think about years back when I was thinking about career. I was thinking about being a writer, because I love writing, and this being able to be expressive and things like that. Like I call like journaling and things through high school stuff. I just was like enthusiastic about. So like for me, like it's it just feels like it's full circle now, because now that I'm a recording artist, it's like all I do is write, and it's like now that I have a book out, so for me it's just like writing has been something that's been like my safe haven, really. Just being able to just express my day-to-days has been so cathartic, so healing. And like I was just so enthused about it. I'm like, what can I do with this? And I just started just experimenting just with my words and putting it in different ways and poetry. Then I started, putting my words into like raps and just seeing where it goes, and not really caring about structure and meter and things like that. I was just, doing more like for play, and then it turned into where I really took it seriously was when I really started to realize how much stuff like that was real for me that I was just like writing about. That was like, wait a minute, it felt like it needed to be in a song or a poem or something like that for me to say like, okay, these words need to be on a beat or something, and because it just felt like it just felt so right for
Yeah.
in that time when I was just going through the motions of figuring out what could this be? Could this be a poem? Could this be a rap? And I was just like experimenting. Really, nothing really set in stone, but what really solidified me being a rapper was really just finding out that like words are so powerful, and I didn't really realize that until someone said I wasn't enough, really
Yeah.
to be doing it, and then I started to feel like some of that power was me. I took back my power by being able to like still go against the grain and still pursue it, and honestly, even early on, I wasn't. It was really frowned upon when it came to me wanting to pursue a music career. So that was also another struggle for me that I had to wrestle with as well.
Sure. Did you have any, like, once you, because, we all kind of start somewhere, and when we're getting into whatever our field of choices for, for work or whatever, and you started, I mean, and we all have someone we start off with, and maybe we have inspirations. Like, is there anybody that you kind of took your style from or was inspired by, as far as like a hip hop artist or some sort of poet or writer?
Yes, I was inspired by like the
Right.
Common, Tyler
Common.
Kelly,
Yeah,
a lot of
conscious
the
rappers.
conscious rappers. Yes, because I love their message. So that's what I was really into. Besides, my music scope was really diverse. And when I was younger, I used to listen to like punk rock and R&B, pop. It was just like very diverse. But I started just like listening to like a whole bunch of music, and I was a lot of my music really has been just inspired by like those rappers, even, to up and recently, a couple of years ago, a friend of mine introduced me to NF, and I didn't know who NF was. He's also a rapper,
Right.
who speaks a lot about mental health. And when I started listening to his music, I was like, wow, I was really impressed by his vulnerability and also his transparency in his music. And I could just tell that he was leaving you know, nothing on the table. Like he just left it all on the song in the sense that he was spilling out his guts on the beat, and all of him. And I was just like, wow, that's so profound. And I looked at his stuff, and I was inspired by his stuff too, because I'm like, this is something that he's like in a sense a role model for me being a mental health recording artist, because I think about the struggles I've been going through, and I really could relate on a certain level of the stuff he's putting out, and him being so expressive about mental health, and normalizing it, because it is still, in my opinion, still taboo topic of mental health, because nowadays, people, in my opinion, want to only celebrate, mental health awareness when it's the month.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, no, I'm gonna speak about it every single day if I have to, because that is, besides it being my brand, it's my lifeline. It really, that is what kept me going.
Yeah.
My mental health, you know what I mean? My story, and being able to, hear other people's mental health stories, and seeing me in their stories and saying, wait a minute, I relate to this. Like, there's times when I didn't want to be here. And it's just like all these things combined really helped me, develop a strong identity and a strong message when it comes to my artistry.
Yeah. No, I've talked about it many times. It's just sometimes, you think, well, what do you have to live for when you're at the bottom, and you're at your mental bottom, and you're struggling, and you're like, I want to die, but you're holding on to something. And it's not always, oh, your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or your mom or your dad. Sometimes it's just, man, hey, season 3 of another show is starting in a couple months, and I just want to watch that. And
Mm,
I say that because it's like a lot of us do hold on to music. We hold on
yeah.
to things like that can get you through the toughest of times. Um, I mean, I remember as a kid just kind of discovering Eminem and Biggie and just certain artists, and it got me through some times because they talked about some of that subject matter, and they also spewed out their pain with aggression, and sometimes you need to get that out, but you just want to punch a pillow because you're just frustrated with life. And music, you attach yourself to it. And I think that's why it's very key for some of these artists when they have such a huge fan base to really understand what they're talking about. Because I notice a lot of artists who become, especially hip hop artists, they become rich and they're still talking from the mindset of a person who's struggling. And their kids are going through, great colleges, and, they're far from that type of lifestyle, but they're still talking as if life is hard. And it's like you're alienating people, and you're talking, and then you go into how much money you have. And the reality of it, a lot of these kids that live in the areas that you used to live in don't know what it's like to have a Maybach or, a private jet. They don't know that lifestyle. So you're now making them hungry for it. And the only way they know how to get things now is by robbing and killing. And it's like you're really hurting that. Instead of, now I understand you start that from, that's the beginning of your story. Cool. But it's like, that would be like me getting on here just talking about hating having a disability and, just talking about being suicidal. I'm not anymore. I don't live that lifestyle anymore, like, because I'm a better person. I've changed. And when you live in that kind of lifestyle, I get it. That's what you grew up on. But now you now have a fan base. You have people who care about you and love to listen to you. And I think some of them are so afraid to go in a different direction because they want to stay in what got them there. But you evolve as a person. And since you have evolved like you have, it's like, why would I go backwards? Why would I talk about something I don't live anymore? You don't necessarily have to talk about, man, I live in a mansion, but you could talk about like the psyche of a person who made it out of the hood and who is now doing better, and talk about the mental health and talk about the struggles and how hard it took you to get here. You don't have to talk about killing people anymore because you won't. You have security, and it's like you don't. And I think it's way more powerful for someone to know that and go, look, this is not how I live. This is me now. And I'm so happy I made it, and you can make it too. And here's a blueprint. I think a lot of these artists don't leave anything behind to tell them how to get here. They just continue to talk about the struggles and talk about the traps, but they don't talk about how to make it out. And you don't have to always say, man, the only way out is to play basketball and rap, because you do that makes these kids feel defeated. And they're like, well, I can't, I'm not coordinated. I don't know how to dribble a ball. And I don't know how to put my words together like you. So now the only thing I have is to sell drugs. And it really, it's this falsehood that really screws these kids up. And again, it happens in all communities, but we're talking about mainly hip hop, which is a primarily African American and Hispanic. And it's like, these kids are lost, and they need people like you who just want to guide them. And regardless, even if you're from those areas, just to show them what it's like for a black person to succeed and do it their own way, and to live a lifestyle that they're proud of, and not just do it because it sells records.
Right. I love that.
Yeah. And that's why, like you were saying, like with Talib Kweli and Common and Lupe Fiasco and just some of these artists that are pretty well known, but they talk about their own ways of living. They may throw in a little bit of gangster rap here and there, a little tough guy stuff, but at the end of the day, they talk about what hits close to home for them and what they live, and that's why they stand out. Maybe they're not as famous as some, but they're still well known enough, and it shows that you can do it, and you can still succeed and still have what you want without committing crimes, without doing that. And I think so many kids, white, black, Hispanic, whatever, so many people are holding on to any hope and looking for some sort of superhero that like resonates with them and says, hey man, I know what it's like. You know what it's like to be me, man. I can make money. I can have a life. I can be happy. And because this person is my idol, this person does it. They lived how I lived. But instead, a lot of these artists, the money overpowers them, and they just do whatever it is that they're told, or they do whatever will make them the next $1 million. And it's like, no, man, we need more artists that are just authentic. And even if they're offensive, whatever, just however they put out their brand, their music, they are just trying to help the young version of themselves. And that's how, I mean, like I said, I don't have any name, but I'm doing this my way because I want to help the younger TJ. I don't want there to be another version of me hanging on by a thread and wanting to die. I want them to thrive and live their life and know that it's going to be okay. I look at myself even as a disability advocate. I try to carry myself in such a way so that they know, like, hey, man, a person who is legally blind can dress well, can coordinate, can match, and can still smile and can still appreciate the little sight that they have. And having a disability isn't the end of the road. It's not a death sentence. And I do that on purpose because I want people to know that, like, this isn't, it's not all bad. I'm not saying it's all good either because I share the bad stuff. But I also say, man, it's not over. And I think it seems like people only know how to do one or the other. They either show the hard side or they glorify something. And it's like, no, you can do both, and you could talk about the gray areas. We always talk about it's either white or black. But for me, most things have the gray area is bigger than the black and the white put together. And
That's
so
right.
I'd rather talk about everything, not just the black and the white, but the middle too, the gray. And I think that's why it's great for what you're doing, because you could do what you were doing, but you didn't feel good about it. You felt gross inside because you're like, ew, like, this isn't who I really am. But instead of going, you know what, screw it, you could just double down on it and go, nah, we're gonna just put this out, even though people behind the scenes don't know that, or they know who I really am. We'll just, they don't need to. The rest of the audience doesn't need to know. They just need to know that I'm a bad dude and I do this and I do that. But at the end of the day, like, eventually your authenticity came out and it overpowered it, and you had to have a reality check, and you changed your life.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is so profound. Like, those gray areas. Like, I just resonate with all of what you said because honestly, like, I tell myself, like, in my head, I'm like, wow, people have so much influence. It's almost ridiculous, in in a way that it's scary because it feels like it's so easy for people in the limelight to be able to manipulate their fan bases and stuff like that, and to do things that are not, you know what I mean, just, and for me that's scary because I told myself, like, wow, like, let that not be me. I told myself, like, always, center myself when it comes to opportunities and things like that along the way, because it's like it's so easy to in my opinion, it's really easy to get lost in the fame. And I almost, for a while I did think about doing things differently because I was that seeking that validation. So I even wrote about it at times, like, man, I just wish I could just sell my soul. Like, I'm just like, man, like, and I'm just like to myself, like, why? Like, for what reason? Who do you need to prove? And then it was like an ego thing for me because I didn't think that that what I had was valuable, which is the reason why I hung my head low, because I didn't think my words were valuable. There was times where I didn't even want to write. I didn't write. For a lot of people didn't know that, like, for 8 years I stopped making music, and that was the toughest 8 years of my life because I didn't think that, because of the fact that I was criticized so early on, that I didn't think my words would make a difference. I was told that I wasn't talented, my talent was questionable, that, Diddy would throw my CD out the window, and, being called lazy, and all these different things I let take control of my identity and my psyche. And I really had to sit with myself, and a lot of the things that I internalized was those criticisms for my music, and I didn't know how to escape from that, to the point where I just felt so defeated. Like, I'm just like, what is the point? I even told my mentor, like, what's the point? I just want to give up my music. And all this time, I was thinking about, influence and things like that, but still pushing myself to not do it, not pursue the music, because I was thinking like at the time, like, who would care if I ever put out a record? You know what I mean? It's not making a difference. Like, it's not getting any views. Like, what am I doing here? And because I meditated so long on those thoughts, I started to act out in ways, turning into I turned into alcohol to ease that mental strain. Besides self harm, and then I wasn't at a point. I was at a point where I wasn't proud of what I was doing, because I knew part of me was like, I knew I was meant for more, but I just didn't know how to actualize that, and really turn some of the negative feedback into fuel to get me to continue to pursue it long enough, um you know that I could actually, continue putting out more records that would inspire the next generation. And then I started to really come to grips with myself after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, of the type of artist, I wanted to become. And I'm so grateful that I did the rebrand also, because it was a part of my um, a way of turning into someone who I know I was always meant to be. But it just took really the pandemic to really help me realize, some of the things that were holding me back before, like my self worth was out the window, and now I'm able to embrace my own, walk in my new power, because I have support, because I embrace community, because I took no for an answer. I said, okay, you think I'm a bad rapper? You think I'm crap? Okay, cool. I'm not gonna adhere to what you say. I know God has a way. God has a plan for me, and He wouldn't put music in my life if it wasn't something that He felt I could pursue, and be successful at. So that's why I tell myself, hey, I'm gonna keep on going, because I know there's someone who's living through my lyrics, and there's people who's been on the phone with me who's like, yo, bitch, like, your music is getting me through my days. Like, I just listen to your song and it's getting me through it. I'm like, wow. Because sometimes I hear it, but then I kind of like block it out, like if it wasn't something that someone literally just said 2 seconds ago, because I was always fixated on the negative.
Yeah, and I think what we talked about before about bragging and like being braggadocious and glorifying. Well, you could do that too. It's just a different way. Obviously, you have your relationship with God, but you have all these people that have helped you along the way. And I think a lot of times these artists, and not just hip hop, artists in general, they brag about this like luxurious lifestyle, having Mercedes and a big mansion, but it's like that doesn't necessarily mean they're happy. And to
Right.
me, like for someone like you can glorify the fact that like I'm beating my demons. I'm living how I want to live. Maybe I'm not rich. Maybe I'm not famous, but I'm famous in my own circle.
Mm,
People love me. I'm helping people. Like that is happiness. That is the lifestyle you should covet, and not constantly pursue just the glitz and the glam. And I think that's something that like for someone that's different and unique in their own way, for someone like you that's doing different things, you could like that's what you glorify. Like that's what you brag about, and you talk about the people that helped you, because I think so many of these people they try to pretend like, man, I did this on my own. This is all me, and it's like, yeah, but what about like the family that supported you when you didn't have any money, or what about your mentor, or somebody you leaned on who helped you get you out of the darkest times, or hell, what about your pet, whatever. What about those, and what about every individual that's supporting you now, that's keeping you on the right path? And then, like I said, and then from there, like, what about all the things now that make you happy? What about the lifestyle you live now? To me, too many people glorify what happiness is in the sense of, like I said, money. And it's not. Like, I'm sure money does help, for sure. It helps, more relationships and resources and things. But a lot of that is also a facade. And
yeah.
And I think for someone, and again, I don't know, I do okay financially, but it's like I do all right with my money and I'm able to buy the shoes I want and afford my rent and certain things. And I'm okay with the money I have. Sure, I'd like to be more known so I can help more people. But I don't care if I ever have 1 million friends on TikTok. You know why? Because 99.9% of them aren't really my friends.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, so I think that's where, I mean, when your music continues to evolve, and I'm sure it will over time more and more, like that's the thing. You just talk about even from the mental health stuff, like when you can just talk about, like the reason why, and I did a video about this the other day, just like the reason why I'm less afraid now, just in life, is just because I've been battling me. You know how scary it is to deal with someone who knows you in and out and is 3 steps ahead and wants you dead and constantly tells you that you're no good, and every bad thing that's ever been said or done to you by other people, it constantly points it out to you and shows it in large print, like, hey, remember when your third cousin said this on, and I suffer from brain fog. I forget things all the damn time. But for some reason, I can't forget the day, someone bullied me or somebody did this or someone said this. And it's, so, like, why would I be afraid of anything else when I've been battling my biggest enemy my whole life has been me. And it's, and so that's why now, like, I'm so open about everything I've been through and I self-reflect and, instead of self-loathing, I don't sit around anymore and just go, oh, you suck. I mean, I have days where I kind of, get kicked around a little bit, but I always bounce right back up immediately and just say, all right, ready for the next day. And so, yeah, man, I think that's something like you and I and others have, we have to use our power and our leadership and use our experiences to our benefit and just say, look, man, we projected. This is what we've been through and we're still here. And sometimes that's the ultimate prize. That's the win, because I nearly died from an illness, but I also nearly died by my own doing because my brain wanted me gone. My body gave up on me and I was giving up on me, and something pulled me through and got me through it, and I'm still here as you are. And you tried to kill yourself with, substance and there's substances and just giving up on yourself. And so, man, it's like I said, I think that's something like the privilege you have now is you have all this experience and knowledge, and you've seen where you were from before, and now you can take all that and use that as fuel. Anybody who said you suck, anytime you even told yourself you suck, you can use that to just write better and put out better music and share those things. I mean, you could literally have a song where you're just talking to yourself and just fighting back. So that's why it's great, man. And like I said, it's not all good. We have days where, man, life just, I realize, like, man, I don't know about you, but I've had days, even recently I had one where I'm just like, I woke up, the day started, and I'm like, I want to go back to bed already, because this day I just want to write off. I just want to X out on the calendar because I don't want to be awake for this. I don't want to die. I don't, I want to live, but the way I feel right now, the overbearing, like, feeling that's just like in my chest and this like dark cloud that's like hovering over me right now, it's like too strong. And I really just want to go to bed or at least take a nap, and hopefully it'll go away, because, we do have some bad days, and I think they're not, they don't last for me, they don't last a whole week or a months like they used to. They may last a couple hours. So it's improvement. It's just I'm still going to go through it, as I'm sure you are. Like, you're going to go through it. But, when you get knocked down, for you, I'd imagine it gives you more material.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like you're just living, man. And that's the thing. Even the bad that gets thrown at you, you can internalize that and find ways to put that in a rhyme and turn it into a song. And I think that's always going to benefit you. It's always going to be something good for you to look forward to, even though it's like you don't want to look for negative thoughts and stuff, but it's like, man, my brain told me this, and I could literally make a song about this. So
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
so just keep doing what you're doing. It's, I don't think people who struggle with mental health and more mental illness, because I think everybody has mental health, but people who struggle with real mental illness, I don't think we get enough credit for how strong we are. I think we get this perception that there's a perception that we're weak because we think about killing ourselves and wanting out. But it's like you don't understand what it takes every day to get up.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. And some days it's like you wake up and you go, I don't ever want to go through this again. And I know I'm going to go through this tomorrow. And you still get up. And some of these people are doing it while they have kids, while they have other health issues, while they're serving in the military, while they're working, while they're, whatever. Some days it's very hard to even shower or to eat, to do the bare minimum. And that they still get up and somehow do those things and take care of their kids and work and whatever else. So I'm sure you've had many days where you're like, I'm not writing no stupid song. I feel like crap. How you might have even been in tears when you were starting to write one. And you did it anyway because you had to. Because you made it a point to make sure you still live. And so I feel like people with mental illness don't get enough credit. And we all get put into the same category as, like the person who's just constantly, who has like schizophrenia and he's talking to himself. And it's like, look, I feel for them too. But we're all different. And there's a lot of us who struggle with it because life has kicked us around and all we want is just for the noise to stop. And we just want to smile. We want to feel at peace. And our own brains have not let us do so. So, yeah.
No, I 100% agree with that sentiment because even though I haven't been diagnosed with mental illness, I did, had all the signs of being someone who was in a sense of in the spectrum of maybe someone with anxiety or depression, and just all those things combined. I feel like when it comes to mental illness, it's really something that, in my opinion, I feel like people want to put labels on people with mental illness as there's something wrong with them, they're crazy, and then because for me, I feel like this because something with themselves they can't handle, they can't deal with, so they project whatever insecurities to the person with a mental illness, like no, they're the problem and things like that. But when it's not necessarily true, I noticed even when I was going through mental abuse with a mentor of mine, the same mentor that helped me in my career, when we had a bad fallout last year, I actually realized that it was, she was attempting to say, hey, like you're the one who actually initiated the conversation. So it was kind of like it made me feel like there was something wrong with me. Because I was thinking, wow, like, me, and I do admit, like, the timing was early in the morning, 3 a.m., and me texting someone, at 3 a.m. is not something that I would do if I was in my right mind. But because I was going through it, and really needing that support system, it wasn't being received well. So for me, I thought I was the problem. I thought, like, maybe that I shouldn't even be here because if me trying to, attempting to get support for me feeling like I'm not worth nothing is something that I'm like that's frowned upon, then I'm like, what's the point of living? And that was when I was even contemplating following lead at the time when I was going through the mental abuse mishap situation with my mentor, and I realized that, like, after the whole situation went down of her thoughts of me feeling that I should write an email versus me reaching out to her, at that time in the morning, I just had to come to grips with maybe, maybe this dynamic is not working for me. So I feel like when it comes to like mental illness and mental health in general, I feel like depending on the situation, it's hard to deal with certain people to in order to really because a lot of people they don't understand because they're not diagnosed with mental illness, so they can only assume what the other person's going through. And when I had that dynamic with my mentor, she didn't know what I was going through. She could only assume, that I was going through something. So she ended up calling me to see what was going on. But because we had that conversation and I told her exactly how I felt and stuff like that, and because it was a mistake, well, I started internalizing that maybe I'm like a bad person because I did that, because I initiated to reach out to her, and I was told I was unprofessional. So that's the thing about my mental health is it's easy to, at least in my opinion, to get caught up with internalizing a lot of things that people project because they don't really know. They don't know mental health, like the people like in the mental health community do, that are actually diagnosed and have an illness, and they can only speak about what they went through, and they can express it how they feel. But when it comes to people who don't know, they don't necessarily tend to be kind to people with mental health issues because, again, one, they can't relate, and two, because they may not have anybody in their family who's dealing with the same issues, really.
Right. No, for sure. Yeah. No, man, I appreciate you like sharing all this because it's heavy. A lot of this is, I think, I mean, you've been doing it a little while as I have. You share your story, you get it out there, and the first couple of times it's really hard to do because you're reliving it. And then eventually
Yeah.
you get used to it. You just start saying it, and it becomes like so matter of fact, and and it's just, yeah, okay, I went through this. This is what I felt. This is what I endured.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, even though you're more comfortable with it and it doesn't hurt as much, there's still a part of it that has a tingle in there, right? And it's like, man, like I did want to die and all these other things, and it's hard, and a lot of people don't know. I mean, I've talked to friends and stuff, and they're like, man, you're just like really honest, and I'm like, yeah, but because it's the only way I know how to be anymore. Like I've lost my filter. Like this is just, I want to be this, and maybe it rubs people the wrong way at times, but it's like I feel the only way I can help people is just be unabashedly honest, and just go like, this is life, man. This is what life can be if you're unlucky enough to get to this point. Mental health can be really, mental illness can be really horrifying. Having a disability can be really horrifying. It can cause a lot of internal and mental damage, but it's also not also all bad. You can get through it. You can scratch and claw your way out of it, and but you have to, as a person, you have to be honest with every bit of it. You can't just try to put yourself in a good light and go, yeah, I know I beat my demons. It's like, yeah, you beat your demons, but how? You didn't just beat your demons by going, go away, demons. You actually had to go through some shit. And I think that's a lot of people don't want to talk about. They don't want to know the middle part, the tough part. They want to know the beginning and they want to know the end. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's not how my story works. There is a beginning, there is an end. But the middle is what you really need to know, because you got to know how I climbed myself out of this and what I was fighting. And not all these have a happy ending story, man. There's a lot of people like you and I who are no longer here because they could not defeat their demons. So every day, I've lost some battles with my demons, but I never lost the ultimate war because I'm still here. And so every day I wake up is a blessing because I tried to end it many years ago, and I also nearly died from a disease when I was a kid as well. So every day that the storm kind of isn't hovering above me anymore is great. I know I'm always due for a day, but I also know that, I mean, I'm always aware because I also know that it can get worse. And just because I've had maybe a month without any real problems, any internal fighting with myself, I know any day it can pop up. Not because I'm trying to speak it into existence, but just because I know me, I know it's going to happen. But I'm aware of that, and I'm always, you gotta, as they say, keep your enemies closer.
Mhm.
I try to keep my enemy, which is the demons that are still left in there. I try to keep them as close as possible because I got to study them. I have to be aware of what they're going to try to do and other tactics because I know I'm in a better place, but I also know you can shake that up and turn it upside down very quickly. And so I just have to
Mm.
continue to sharpen my sword and get stronger and, just be prepared for any day of, internal turmoil. But yeah, so what do you, besides your music, I mean, what are you doing with your life like right now?
Well, right now, besides gigging in music, I just been focusing on um getting my head together in regards to figuring out like what can really help like the mental health community, whether it's me starting a podcast or just experimenting with me either doing being part of like something like a documentary or something, just like different things where I can really contribute to sharing my story and being that catalyst for change and that catalyst for healing for other people to know that mental health is real and to see someone actually go through it, in real life versus just hearing it on the song is, it makes it more real, for me. So I'm just figuring out how I can work with doing something, visually to really, you know, help people along their journeys to remind people that it's okay to get the help and it's okay to not be okay, but it's also okay to get the help that you deserve because you deserve to be here. So like for me, it's just figuring out what type of platform or is it in the book? Like I'm just experimenting, but what other steps is next for me as I still continue to push out music and stuff like that and promote my book and still figure out how to um continue to be that hope for the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where can they find your music and where can they find your book?
Yes, my music is on my website, which is www.richvy like yellow sion.com. So it's www.richvysion.com. The name of the book is called Transform From Victim to Victor, Transforming Trauma into Triumph. It's also available on Amazon under my name, Richard Searam. So Richard and then it's Seeram as in Mary, on Amazon.com. But if they get the book on my website, they get the wristband, my custom card, and also a bookmark as well. So it's a lot of more add-ons with the pictures on the website. And all my music is up on there. My EP that I dropped last year called "I'm on the Other Side of Mental Abuse," and I also have my new record called "I Would Not Commit Suicide" that I just released last Tuesday. So I would love if you're listening to support that single. It's an empowering record about a near suicide attempt uh, last year or the year before. 'Cause time is going fast, but during the pandemic when I was wrestling with my self worth and internalizing a lot of the stuff that was said to me. A lot of people don't know I used to save actually a lot of screenshots that a lot of people have said about my music, and I always kept them in my folders on my phone, things like that. And I would, from time to time, I would look at it, and it would be so overwhelming that I would just like break down and spiral into depression. And the song was basically about how I was internalizing a lot of those things. And my sister helped me and saved me from committing suicide when I was about to drink a pneumonia bottle. which was, a year or so ago during the pandemic. So it's a song basically taking back my power and a vow to myself that I would not attempt to commit suicide because I know, like, people are living through my words, and I know that I'm here for a reason.
That's,
And the person who was listening to, you are here for a reason also.
that's awesome. Maybe I'll play a snippet of it to start the episode when I put it together, and
Yeah, shoot.
that's all right. Yeah. So before we fully wrap up here, do you have any? I always sometimes let the guests kind of give some advice to like the younger, in your case, a younger Rich. Like, is there someone who's kind of struggling with their own identity, struggling with just life? Do you have any advice to kind of get them to the next step?
What I would advise is to seek out community. That is so important. At least for me, when I dealt with depression, I didn't want to seek out community because I thought my voice and my story was gonna be shut down. And I realized that there were so many people who were dealing with this outside of just me, in general, and that I was able to get the help I needed because I was vocal about my needs and what struggles that I was going through. And I know it's hard because of the stigma of men are supposed to be tough and macho, but it is important to seek out either a therapist or someone who's a friend that is able to just speak life into you, to be able to remind you that you're worthy of being here. It's more about being able to find that a person who's able to encourage you and not discredit your feelings at all, and just to be able to not only seek community, but also to find things that could help, whether it's writing or journaling or like gym, different things that could help with mental health. That's helped me a lot, or my mental health, just being able to get away from that dark feeling of that dread of not wanting to be here to, like, okay, just write about what I feel at the moment, and it just feels like, okay, I release a little bit of weight off my shoulders, and it's not stuck in me. So anything like writing, journaling, or just reading a book, there's like different activities that can get your mind away from the feeling um of not wanting to be here, or just not wanting to just get up in the morning to go about your day. But all those things help me a lot to where I'm at today. And affirmations, I'm a big fan of affirmations. I am enough, you are enough, to reaffirm my affirmation. I listen to a lot of motivational videos because they keep me afloat. I also listen to powerful music, empowering music. Like, I used to listen to Mariah Carey's Hero, When You Believe by Mariah Carey. Like, this different songs that just have a positive message, and that will encourage you that life is not that your life is important, and that anything that you're going through is just for the moment, and that things will get better soon. So those things really help me in my journey, and my desire that it will help someone else on their journey as well.
Awesome. Well, buddy, I'll wrap this up, but I really appreciate you. I'm very proud of you for what you made it through. I'm happy you found who you're meant to be. Please keep in touch. I would love to stay friends, support each other, because, we need each other. I don't mean just you and I, but just in general.
Yeah.
Like, in order to put out a message and to spread positivity, one man can't do it. Not two men can't do it. We need all of us. We need more of us for sure. And so please keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to go listen to some of your music and support you. And just, like I said, you need a friend, you need someone to talk to, please text, call me anytime I'm around.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to, share my story, a little bit of my story, and also just be able to, inspire people and stuff to keep going.
Anytime, my friend, anytime. And maybe we'll do one down the road and give an update on where you've been and what you've been doing. But
Yeah, of course, yes.
you keep doing what you're doing, and like I said, we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you, my brother. When is it gonna be released?
It's gonna be a little while,
So,
but I promise you'll be the
yeah.
first one to know.
Okay, sweet. All right, thank you, brother.
See you, man.
Take care.
All right, guys, I really enjoyed that episode. I hope you did too. It's about the second time he and I talked, but we really hit it off right away, and he's a really good guy, and I'm happy for what he's doing with his life and with his music and his just artistry. We need more like that. Too many people are just trying to be like others, and he's found who he is meant to be. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys.